Well, welcome to Speaking of Horses. Today we're going to talk about trail riding safety. And we're going to start out with the Trailmeister, Robert Eversole. We caught up with him, and here's some data from the Trailmeister. And we'll catch up with Robert right after these words.
They are our family, and we only want the best for them. No standing water means clean, good tasting, algae-free, mosquito-free, and virus-free water. No risk of electric shock, no risk of fire from faulty wiring. Cool water in the summer, warm water in the winter. Water delivered fresh from the water supply at 50 degrees year-round. Drinking post water.
Equestrasafe, the first and last aid for wound, skin disorders, proud flesh eliminator, all guaranteed. Safe and effective water-based, naturally antibacterial. You'll want it in your tack box, in your trailer, on the trail with you, or any event. That is Equestrasafe. Check them out, equestrasafe.com.
Horses! Piranha! Oh no! Oh, the humanity! Oh, piranha.
Well, hello friends, I'm Robert and this is Ruger. Together, Ruger and I spend a lot of time riding, camping, and packing across the nation. Sharing our adventures with you is what we love, as well as helping you get out on the trail and have adventures of your own. That's what we do.
Topographic maps have a special tool on them to help you visualize terrain features. It's these little brown lines. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to read them. Today, we're going to talk about using maps to plan a ride. You know, to me, navigation is one of the most important outdoor skill sets. And I think it's also one of the ones that we as horse folks tend to overlook. And we worry about how to be our mule's best friend, what to take along with us. But navigation, it gets forgotten. But if you truly want to make sure you get home in time for dinner, stick around. We're going to have a great conversation. Ruger agrees. But first, a quick shout out to everyone that is subscribed to our channel. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. If you haven't joined the community yet, please click that subscribe button. It's free and you'll never miss an episode. Now let's talk maps. Topographic maps are a little different from the maps you may use to get across town or see on your truck's dashboard. Not only do they show you trails and roads, once you get the hang of reading them, topographic or contour maps also show you three-dimensional terrain from a flat piece of paper. Pretty nifty. Contour lines are how this is accomplished, and they're what make topographic maps special. Contour lines are these brown lines drawn on the map that connect points of equal elevation, meaning if you physically followed a contour line, your elevation would remain constant. You'd neither go up nor down. Let's get started with the easy stuff first. By looking at how the lines spread apart and come together, you can get a really good idea of what the terrain looks like. When the lines are packed tightly together, that tells us that the elevation changes a lot in just a short distance, so therefore the terrain is steep. As the lines spread apart, the elevation changes more slowly, so the slope is much less. Easy peasy, right? Big part of navigation and map reading is just matching up what we see in the world around us with what we find on the map. With just a little insight into these contour lines, you're going to be able to plan your rides and camping trips with ease. Let's check out some common terrain features. This is a peak or a hill. It's just an area of high ground. From the top, the ground slopes down in all directions. Peaks are illustrated by contour lines forming nesting or concentric rings. The inside of the smallest closed ring is the top of the hill. This is a ridge. A ridge is simply a line of high ground that slopes. Think of a series of peaks in a line that slowly go down. Contour lines forming a ridge tend to be U-shaped or V-shaped, with the closed end of the contour line pointing away from high ground. Next up are saddles. No, not those kind of saddles.
the kind of saddle that we ride over, not sit in. A saddle is just a low point between two areas of higher ground. A saddle is illustrated on a contour map by contour lines that kind of look like an hourglass. Next up are valleys. A valley is a stretched out groove in the land, usually formed by water, that has high ground on three sides. Valleys are illustrated with contour lines by U or V-shaped patterns. The closed end of the U or V always points upstream or toward higher ground, and again, generally you'll find streams running through these. You know, those little blue lines. Here's another one, a depression. A depression is a low point on the ground. It could also be described as simply a hole in the ground that isn't a lake. Depressions are generally represented by closed contour lines that have tick marks, they're also called haxure lines, that point toward the low ground. And now for the last three features to get you started as a navigation pro. The baby valleys that hang from the sides of ridges, those are called draws, and they're kind of like a valley but much less developed. The opposite of a draw is a spur. I think of a spur as a baby ridge that hasn't yet fully grown into a full-fledged adult ridge. And lastly, cliffs. Steep drop-offs are shown on contour maps as a series of lines that converge together. I don't want to ride here, I think. It's going to take just a little bit of practice to become a skilled contour line reader, but it's going to pay off in the long run. One of the easiest ways to get comfortable with contour lines and interpreting them is to take a map of the area that you like to ride in. As you're on a ride, pick out areas that you can see in the real world and match them with what you find on your map. It's going to make learning your contour maps and your topographic map information a lot easier. To learn more about reading a topographic map and having a better riding camping trip, you can also come to a Trailmeister Trail Clinic. We have clinics across the U.S. and even internationally. Just visit the website for more information. I hope this was helpful for you. For more information on trail riding and camping with horses, as well as the largest guide to horse trails and camps in the world, please visit trailmeister.com. Happy trails.
And we want to give a great big thank you to Adeptus Animal Nutrition.
Welcome to the world of Orange Slow Feeder, the longest lasting, highest quality slow feed net in the world. We currently have 12 different sizes, and we have anywhere from a small trailer net clear up to a 6x6 round bale or a 4x8 square bale net. And you can contact us at orangeslowfeeder.com. We also have a Facebook page, and we're at Pinterest, and we'll be on Twitter soon.
The rural American lifestyle. It's how we work, and it's how we play. It's how we learn and how we enjoy the finer things in life. How we take care of our animals and tend to the land. It's a way of life. Has been for hundreds of years. Now there's a whole new way for rural America to watch TV.
Well, next in our show about trail riding safety, Teresa Spencer with Equestrasafe has many products, ideas, hints, and tips about trail riding safety and trailering safety in general.
Equestrasafe. So first of all, welcome this fine morning.
Thank
It's
you.
February in Southern California, and we're not in the snow. We're not in the...
Nope.
They think it's chilly because it's below 60, but trust me, in other parts of the world, this is nothing.
Oh,
okay?
this is summer.
So Equestrasafe seems to be on a really growing mode. It's a wonderful product line we've got. So tell us about your product line and tell us a little about what got you started in doing this.
Well, fabulous. Thanks, Wayne. And I appreciate you having me on this morning. We started this company. It was a girlfriend and I that came together through horses and a friendship of horses. And we were evacuated 5 times in 4 years. And what happened with that is when we got to the evacuation centers, we found out that none of the horses at those evacuation centers had any form of owner identification on them. Now the county, the sheriff's department, animal control had their own forms of identification, but nothing from the owners. And when you go into an evacuation situation, you're running in, grabbing horses maybe from homes that people do not, or at work maybe, or they've gone on vacation. So the owner may not even be aware that their animals were evacuated. What we found is between that and trail riders having what we like to classify as unscheduled dismounts.
Good way to put that. I like that. I like that. I've had a few of those myself.
That's right. We don't call them buck-offs, you know, and the horse takes off and runs away. How do you get your horse back? If somebody finds your horse, locates your horse, and you don't have any form of identification on that horse, how do you get your horse back? So we came up with the idea of a permanent embroidered band that could be very easily attached to your horse through Velcro with your phone number on it. And that way, if the horse is lost, is removed from your property for any reason during an evacuation, or, you know, we all have those Houdini horses that love to get out of a stall, they love to take down a fence, or decide that they want to become a show jumper that day, and run down the street, then your neighbors can also give you a call and say that you have, you know, that they have found your horse in their front yard. And that actually happened to me one day. All three of mine got out. A neighbor didn't even know that I had horses, and he called me because of the number on the fetlock band and said, by the way, do you have 3 horses these colors? And I said, yes. So I had to go down there, round them up, bring them back, and, you know.
The first thing you have to do is admit they got away from you.
Exactly.
That's the first thing.
I had a Houdini, and he opened up the gate in the middle of the night.
You know, I got to tell you a funny story. We were trail riding years ago in west central Wisconsin, out kind of close to the Mississippi River, but there's a area out there which is government land. There are no really marked trails, but it's wide open. It's like a national park. You can just pull in. There's one big field where you can camp. There's no facilities.
Nice.
The people camp, and you just take off riding. And you're basically just on your own. Well, a gentleman that we know was selling a horse to another guy. And he agreed, okay, let's go over there and we'll trail ride. You can ride the horse. If you like the horse, then you pay me. If you don't like the horse, you don't pay me for the horse, and I take it home. Well, obviously, that is the horse that the guy who was not a very good rider was on, but wanted to buy. Came down to a creek, and every time the horse would jump the creek, the gentleman would fall off.
Oh, boy.
Finally, they said, look, just get off, lead the horse. You jump across the creek, then let the horse jump across the creek, get back on, because otherwise we're not going to get you across. So he got off, the horse jumped the creek, pulled the reins out of his hand, and the horse took off.
Oh, boy.
Now the horse is tearing around there, saddle, bridle, reins hanging, tearing through the woods, thickets, and everybody else on horseback looking for the horse can't find the horse. So we go back to the camp area, and the gentleman who owned the horse was now really heartbroken because he didn't have a sale. And his horse was gone, and the guy that was going to buy it isn't going to buy a horse they can't find. It was a real, you know, kind of a mess. And all of a sudden that night, after exhausted searching, just figuring, well, what probably would happen, unfortunately, was the horse could have gotten into the thickets, got brush run up, branches run up into the stirrups or whatever, and been trapped. Well, somebody drove into our little camping area and said, they might lose a horse here. Yeah, it's just, well, I said it's about 6 miles down this gravel road, and it's just tied to an old tire laying by the road because it's exhausted. Just go get it.
Oh my God.
So these two guys jumped in the truck and trailer, went down the road. Sure enough, there was the horse. Did not even break the reins.
Wow.
The horse was sweaty and all that and exhausted, but he was so exhausted that they just tied him to a tire and he wasn't going anywhere. Okay. And they loaded him up, brought him back, and everything was cool. But it was so, you know, it's another reason why it would have been so nice. The first person that saw that horse could have easily made a phone call. And in this day and age, this was when this has been a few years ago. Cell phones weren't as big as they are now, but now it would have been very simple to just call a person. They would have been in camp with their cell phone probably and known immediately.
Right.
If that data was in fact on that horse.
Right. You know, last night I opened up my email and I had a testimonial from somebody who said, I've decided to buy your fetlock bands after being introduced to them from a friend of mine. And it just so happens we were out camping and a very nice, sweet mule rolled into our camp, fully tacked up. We didn't know where it came from. And she said because of that, we were able to find the owners, but it took us 3 days.
Yeah.
And she said, and because of that, I am now going to purchase your fetlock ID bands.
Well, tell us a little bit about the varying products that you do have.
Well, for us, you know, our motto is before emergencies happen, not after.
Right.
So we want you as a rider and a horse owner to be very safe on the trail with not only identification for you and your horse, but also possibly medical information and other things. We have several products in our line that are reflective for people who love to night ride. Several different products, from halters to collars to leg bands, all designed to help you be visible at night. And we use 3M products. So they're very high quality reflectability. Some of these products can be seen from a quarter to a half a mile away. We also have some helmet tags, we call them rescue facts, that we can use for your horse with identification, medical information for your horse, you as owner information, veterinary information, and most importantly, a consent to treat. Then we also have them for us humans for your helmet that does all the same thing. It has all of your information. We also have rattlesnake kits, airway kits we call them, for if your horse gets bit by a rattlesnake. We also have several different styles of first aid kits that you can carry with you, have in your saddlebag, have in your truck, in your trailer, and your barn. We're just numerous products that we do, but it's all geared around safety and being safe before an emergency happens.
Well, and you've got a really good product line here. I love the emergency kits, the first aid kits you have. It's very well thought out, and I know you have been at different horse expos speaking to people on this very thing. So it's very, very well thought out, very, very well done, and we just love being involved with it.
Well, thank you. And I love to. I'll plug this. I love to promote small businesses. So all of the products that I get are from other small business owners.
Right.
That's what I like to do. So
well, we just passed along a wound care thing to you.
Yes.
From a small business starting up in Missouri, and it's called Nixall. Nixall. I'll get a plug in for Nixall.
There you go.
But it's something that I had given Teresa that could be something that would be made available in that first aid kit.
Absolutely.
We'll see. We'll just see.
Absolutely.
Well, Teresa, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me on.
And we thank all of you for listening and watching. It's Speaking of Horses, and we enjoy doing these things. We're in Pomona, California. We're talking Equestrasafe. Be sure to look it up. It's Equestrasafe. EquestraSafe.com.
That's it.
Teresa, thank you.
Thanks so much.
And thanks. Stay with us here on Speaking of Horses.
And we want to give a great big thank you to Total Equine Feeds. Total Equine. Equessentials Horse Care Products. A complete horse care package of all grooming, skin care, body care products, all from Equessentials. Developed by Dr. Tom Tweeton, these products are all tested and checked to make sure they're safe on your animals, horses, and in some cases dogs and the like. But you need to have Equessentials as a part of your tack box and routine. That's Equessentials Horse Care Products. Well, you know, when you're trail riding, whether it's out on the trail with your horses, it could be with your mules or your donkeys. They're all an integral part of this, and they're all equine partners. We caught up with Ty Evans, a renowned mule trainer. Well, hey, speaking of horses, we are here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We're at the Southern Equine Expo. Ty Evans is my guest, and Ty does a tremendous amount of work with mules. Mules is your forte.
Yes, sir.
So, well, first of all, how do you like being here in Tennessee at Southern Equine Expo?
It's been great. It's been raining a lot.
Oh, yeah, well, it didn't today. This morning the sun was out.
The sun came out.
I could not identify what that orange ball in the sky was.
Every time I come to this state, it rains on me, but no, I like it. This has been a good expo. A lot of interest in mules. For me, that's great. It's been good attendance for sure.
It's been good attendance. This expo is growing every year.
Yeah.
Now, you're from Utah, right?
Yes, sir.
So, you got a lot of expos you're going to be doing this year?
This year, I have this expo, and then next weekend we're going to Rocky Mountain Horse Expo in Denver. That's it for this year. I got a lot of, regular clinics I do, my 3-day events that I do. I got about just about 40 of those this year. But this is it for the expo, just the 2 of them.
So tell us, I know you've been judging the trainer challenge here as well. And a lot of training similarities between mules and horses, but there are some differences. What's the major differences that you face in training a mule versus a horse?
A lot of it's just the time. I've learned you can get a lot done with a horse in a short amount of time, and you can do the same with mules, but for the most part it takes a little bit longer. It takes a little bit longer for them to process some things. And it's not that they're stubborn or dumb or anything like that. They're weighing all their options. One of my favorite quotes from Tom Dorrance was that, it's not that the mules are stubborn, they're just giving you a chance to figure out what you're doing wrong. So I really like that.
That's a good statement, because I always relate it to, used to trail ride some with a gentleman that rode mule, and we were on horses. We come to a creek crossing or river crossing, and I don't care if it was 6 inches deep or a couple of feet deep where we were crossing. If you could see the bottom and the mule could see where he was placing his feet, he was going on. If he could not see where he was placing his feet, it was a slow, easy process as he felt his way. Where that mare I was riding would just kind of stumble in, trip. That's the difference. The horse would just go right on in and then trip over rocks on the bottom or whatever. And the mule took its time and knew what it was doing.
Yeah, mules are very logical. They just think things through. And for us humans, sometimes, we could do a little bit better at that. But the mules always take that time and they think, and sometimes that gets in our way. At least that's our thought of it. But I've come to appreciate it. I'm glad they weigh the options.
Well, see, it kind of relates to, I remember talking years ago to a dressage instructor who was at an expo here in the States, and he had his ties back to classical riding in Europe. And somebody said, well, if I'm in the dressage program and I want to get to this level, I don't necessarily want this level. How can I, speed up the process to get here? And he says, always in America, you're in a hurry.
Yeah.
You're in a hurry. You can't get there without going through these steps. Otherwise, you will destroy everything that you're working for. And he's right, and that's kind of what you just said. It's a process with a mule to learn it, to think it through so that it's in their brain. And if you try to hurry it or circumvent it, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. We're always in a hurry. But when people ask me, well, how long does it take to train a mule? How long you got? I mean, for me, I have pretty high standards, and so when I'm looking into finishing out a mule, for me it's a big process. It's a 5-6 year investment to get them to just one point that I would like to get them at.
It's like the old. I heard this years ago from actually Ray Hunt, who asked somebody how long or what's the most thing you need, the main thing you need to train a horse, the main thing you need to train a horse. And everybody was thinking, I don't know. And all of a sudden, when nobody could answer, he said, more time than the horse.
Yeah.
You just need a little more time than the horse.
Yeah.
So it's that time factor again. Don't get in a hurry. Just get to your destination.
Yeah.
And you know what? As I get older, I begin to realize that. When I'm younger, I don't realize that. I'm sorry they're testing mics in the background, but hey, Ty, it's been a pleasure to talk with you this morning.
Thank you.
And glad to see you here in Tennessee at this expo. It's a nice expo.
It is great.
And we will stay in touch, and we will see you down the road.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Stay with us here on Speaking of Horses. Hey, welcome to Speaking of Horses. We're at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We're at Horse World Expo. And we're having a ball here. It's been a great weekend. Talked to a lot of wonderful people, huge crowds, a lot of fun. And I'm standing here with Patrick King. Now, Patrick, what I want you to do first is tell everybody a little bit about your history in horses and how'd you get started and what got you to the point you're at now.
Okay, well, I grew up riding. I was fortunate enough to grow up with a lot of different horses, competing in a lot of different disciplines. just along the way, I started gaining in my education. I was very fortunate to make friends with some of the best, I consider the best horsemen in the industry. Had an opportunity to ride and to live with Ray Hunt for a couple months.
Oh, wow.
2 months, in fact, at his winter home down in Texas. That really changed things for me. And what I'm doing here at the Expo is basically sharing my ideas on horsemanship, classical side of Western horsemanship, and on dressage. Got a lot of experience with both of those things. So yeah, showing a lot of that and teaching riders about the lost art of the garrocha, which has been a lot of fun for folks.
And we're going to show some footage of that in a little bit, but now, working with Ray Hunt, that had to be an experience. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It was an experience, for sure. You know, it was, Ray was a little, how do we want to say that? Yeah. You're cutting parts of this out, right? While I'm stuttering and stammering. Okay, good. Yeah, it was an experience, you know, spending every day with Ray, you know, waking up in the morning, having breakfast with Ray and coffee with him in the office, and, you know, spending the day under his eye, basically, all the way down to, you know, dinner and drinks in the evening, talking about horses, talking about what he sees and what we were doing. And Ray was so keen on things. He could see you and tell you what you've done with a horse and what you've not done with a horse. He could tell you what you needed to learn and what you already knew. He was so keen on that. And you know, things worked when Ray would tell you what to do. You know, more than what you'd ever believe, more than what I would have ever believed. So it really stretched me to a whole new level. It helped me to realize that the limits with the horse are really just in our mind, you know, and the more connected we get to those feet, to that horse's brain, gosh, the easier things got.
Well, you know, it's a little bit like when you say Ray could just kind of look at you and tell you what you've done. There's the old story about J.C. Penney, the old man who started Penny's, okay? John Cash Penney was his name. And he never hired anybody until he took them to lunch. And at lunch, they just talked about anything, and he watched them eat lunch. And after the way they ate lunch, made up his decision as to whether he was going to hire them or not. For example, if your lunch came and you picked up the salt shaker and you salted your food before you tasted it, you probably didn't get hired. Because he said there's a person that jumps to conclusions.
Right.
He assumed he needed to salt the food, he didn't check.
Right.
Okay. So he had a whole list of things, and he just watched you eat lunch and talked to you about anything. And when he was done, he knew if you were the kind of person in, you know, mental makeup that he wanted.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So, you know, and what you're telling me is Ray was a little bit that way in just observing you,
yes, and
knowing what you did with horses. That's a real insight that you can't develop that. That sort of has to be there.
Right. Absolutely.
You know? So,
well, I know I'm going to watch how I eat in public now, that's for sure.
If somebody invites you to lunch, be careful, okay?
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about, you have a very wide background. I mean, you do things from all disciplines, dressage through the garrocha pole, which was a Spanish item. Tell us how you got into such a wide variety of horsemanship.
Oh, luck, I suppose. When I started out in my career with horses, I did a lot of problem solving and a lot of colt starting, and I got pretty popular where I was in western Pennsylvania, so I got horses that came from every background. So I had to solve problems with the dressage horses and fix things with the reining horses and all of those things. So that really got me, you know, I'd ridden all of those things before, you know, but at that point it really nailed home to me all of the things that I needed to work on, and I got to see those varieties of horses because I had them constantly. In any month I'd have a roping horse and a dressage horse and a trail mule and all of those things in the barn all at one time to work to fix problems or to start under saddle. So it was a lot of fun.
And a lot of people, and I've done shows where we've had like Matt McLaughlin or like Diane Olds-Rossi was on our show here, big dressage people. And then you have a reiner like Aaron Ralston, and they'll tell you that 99% of what they're doing is the same. Hey, thanks for joining us right here on Speaking of Horses. We'll see you next time. This show covered trail riding safety. Hope you enjoyed it.